statistical, mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's
Bitcoiners here. I want to welcome the traders here. I want to welcome the supporters, the subscribers, the followers, the haters, the negators, everyone, all of you. Welcome. I will be able to take this opportunity to just share some of the thoughts that some of your comments have spurred over the last day or so. And we continue to be in very interesting times. I see growing concern. I see growing frustration. I see just the market doing what it's supposed to do, which is basically to tire out those who don't really fully understand Bitcoin, what it is, what it's here to accomplish, what it means for our lives and our existences going forward. For those who are here as tourists, I think it's designed to basically frustrate those to no end. I think it's always designed to basically kick off those who don't belong, don't deserve. And I think Bitcoin, for the most part, does that quite nicely. Volatility, of course, is the price that one has to pay for his or her conviction. Volatility, obviously, is also synonymous with vitality. And so we want volatility. Volatility is a welcome thing. And one of the things that I think that a lot of people miss when it comes to Bitcoin's volatility, well, several things that I think people miss when it comes to Bitcoin's volatility, people. Number one, Bitcoin's volatility is its benevolence. It is not a nemesis. It is not a problem. It is not a fault. It's actually a feature. And Bitcoin's volatility is its benevolent way of coming back for us. All of us, if we're true Bitcoiners, we all wish that Bitcoin could come back all the way to $3,000 a coin, $300 a coin. It won't do that, but it does come back to us within the confines of our experience with Bitcoin. And so all of us wish we got more Bitcoin at 20,000. All of us wish we got more Bitcoin at 15,000. All of us wish we got more Bitcoin at 30,000, at 40,000. But how many real opportunities did we get at those prices? We got multiple opportunities to get Bitcoin over the last several years at 15,000. We had multiple opportunities to get it at 20,000, 30,000, 40,000. Right now, the price area that Bitcoin is displaying its benevolence in is what? 50,000. How many times throughout this entire year so far, we are almost 8.5 months into this year, but how many times has Bitcoin come back for you? How many times have you thought that 50,000 is gone forever, and Bitcoin has said, you know what? I'm going back for the people who didn't step on. I'm going back for the people who missed me. I'm going back to give them another chance. I'm going back to give them a second chance. I'm going back to give them a third chance. 50,000 is the new 3,000 of old, is the new 20,000 of old, is the new $1,300 of old, is the new $300 of old. And this benevolent act on the part of Bitcoin, we label it with a negative term called volatility. Volatility is Bitcoin's way of being benevolent, of giving us a second, a third, and a fourth chance, right? To give us a chance to understand it more, to study it more, and then it comes back for us. And many of us continue to disrespect that benevolence. So that's one of the misunderstandings regarding Bitcoin's volatility. It is a display of its benevolence. It is not a fault in the system, number one. Number two, volatility is actually vitality. You see, a dead man is not volatile. A 98-year-old man toward the end of a very long life is not a volatile human being, but a 15-year-old is. So when you compare a senior citizen who can barely get around without assistance compared to a 15-year-old vibrant, energetic adolescent with his whole or her whole life ahead of them. Which one's going to be more vibrant? Which one's going to be more volatile? We all know this. It's the 15-year-old. Bitcoin's 15 freaking years old. Gold is 6,000 years old as money. That's not going to be vital. It's a 6,000-year-old relic. It's a 6,000-year-old senior citizen. Silver is 9,000 years old. Silver is more in the grave for the most part than gold is. 9,000 years as money. These serve their purposes, but they are the senior citizens in the country club. All right? They are the senior citizens in the league right now. They served their purpose ages ago when the world was slow and dealt in the physical. And now Bitcoin is that new, vibrant, full of life thing that spends its life in our world. In our world, whether you have accepted this or not, is a digital one. We no longer live the majority of our lives, people, in an analog world. We don't. Your world is no longer physical. It is more digital than it ever has been in history. Your photos are no longer physical. When's the last time you've held a freaking physical photo album and flipped through the album to show your friends or your family members pictures? When's the last time you've done that? Some of you have never held a physical photo album ever in your life. Your photos are no longer in the analog world. The digital world has claimed them. Your movies are no longer in the physical world. How many of you used to actually go buy DVDs or CDs and put them in your video player? Some of you have never done that. How many people have rushed down to the Blockbuster, who've had the experience of rushing to your local Blockbuster on a Friday right after work to make sure that the limited 20 copies of the new physical DVD movies coming out you got before everyone else because it was first come, first serve? I had that experience. Some of you have never had the experience of holding a freaking movie in your hands and having to deliver it back to the store. You understand? Your movies are no longer something you can touch, feel. You can't hold them in your hands anymore. You can touch your screen, but that's not the movie itself. Your movie is no longer touchable. Your movie is no longer feelable. Your movies have been claimed by the digital world. When's the last time you've licked when is the last time you've written a freaking physical letter, put it in an envelope, licked the disgusting glue on the back of it, found the appropriate physical stamps, further licked the disgusting glue on the back of them, made sure you had the right amount of stamps, and then walked to a freaking mailbox nearby or take a drive to the closest post office to drop it in the mail? When's the last time you've done that? Most of you have never done that. Your mail has been claimed by the digital world. When's the last time you saw or become aware there are physical, for instance, physical long distance switchboard operators in movies maybe, but they no longer exist. They have been claimed by the digital world. Your music, your movies, your phones have been claimed by the digital world. Even your relationships. Some of you have relationships with people online, digitally, that you've never met. And some of those relationships are deeper than the people that you were actually, that are actually part of your physical family. You have digital relationships that are richer and stronger and more special to you than your physical family members. I know this because it's my experience. And if it's my experience, it's probably yours too. Our relationships have gone to the digital world. The way we communicate with each other has gone to the physical world. Our books have gone to the physical world. I have more books on this phone. I have more books on this phone than my mother's library had when I was a kid. An entire physical structure. I have more books on this phone than my mother's library had in the library. Our books have been claimed. Our education has been claimed by the digital world. Our information has been claimed by the digital world. We live more in a digital society than we live in an analog society. And your failure to understand this is the reason why you still have an issue with something something of value that exists in the digital world, Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the only monetary unit that lives 100% of its life in the brand new frontier, in the brand new world. We have failed to understand that our photos have been sucked there. Our movies have been sucked there. Our mail has been sucked there. Our phones have been sucked there. Our photos have been sucked there. Our information's been sucked there. Our knowledge have been sucked there. Our books have been sucked there. Many of our richest relationships have been sucked there. What we never really understood is that money's there. You see, so all of these things moved to this new world, this new frontier, but we never thought there was money there until Bitcoin was discovered. Someone decided to put a few things that already existed together in this unique way. He took a variety of ingredients that have been in existence for decades, but put these ingredients together in such a way, and voila, out popped a discovery that money exists in this new world that we are increasingly being sucked into. We never thought money was there, but it is there. And Bitcoin is the discovery of that money being there. And that is extraordinarily powerful. And so I know I digress on this point, but my original point was that volatility is Bitcoin's benevolence. Volatility is Bitcoin's vitality. And it is a feature, not a bug. Now, this is a perfect segue into something that sort of spurred this. And if I can just grab this, I'll let you know. Someone mentioned to me that, and in a good way, I'm impatiently waiting for Bitcoin to take off in USD denominated terms. And I understand this view. I understand this impatience from a fiat USD denominated price point of view. But it still smacks of a lack of understanding. Your impatience with the USD denominated price of Bitcoin is a clear indication that you still have work to do, that you still have deeper to go down the rabbit hole, that you're still straddling the analog world and the digital world, but you still have the majority of your life, your thinking, your belief system in the old world that's disappearing. And the reason why I say this is because the last thing, when you truly understand, not the last thing, but in a way, the last thing that you want, if you have not achieved your goal with Bitcoin, is for Bitcoin's USD dollar denominated price to outprice you, to make it impossible for you to achieve your goal. So as an example, if you realize the importance of Bitcoin, and you realize, for instance, that let's say 5 Bitcoin is my goal, and I believe a 5 Bitcoin position at a minimum is going to take care of my family's life forever. And not only my family's life, but in time, if it's truly held, these 5 Bitcoin will change the trajectory of my entire family's bloodline, which means that not only will it affect the lives of my future, of my family's future. Not only will it liberate and make free though the lives of my children, but it will positively affect and liberate and make free the lives of individuals in my family yet to be born. My entire future protege, my entire future bloodline will be changed by 5 Bitcoin as long as they are properly held and secured. Now, if that is your belief, as an example, this is an example, and you have 2 Bitcoin, do you want the price to outprice your ability to get to 5? Do you want it going so quickly? Of course not. The only people who want this are people who are still, they're claiming to be true Bitcoiners and they're claiming to understand, but in reality, at heart, they're really a trader of Bitcoin. I want you to think about this. Only a trader of Bitcoin wants the price to explode right now. Now, one might say that because they're looking to exit, they're the exiters of Bitcoin. If you're never going to sell Bitcoin, who the fuck cares? If it's never going to be sold, especially right now, unless some might say, well, Oliver, what if I had a goal of 5 Bitcoin and I'm there? Let me just tell you what happened to me, which I believe is going to be the experience of most people as well, because I'm not unique in this regard. I believe that if you were to make a 5 Bitcoin position your ultimate goal and you get to 5, by the time you get to 5, you will be so further down the Bitcoin rabbit hole that you will understand that it is absolutely asinine to stop. Like, you won't stop at 5. You'll be like, well, why would I now stop converting the weak into the strong? Why would I stop? Why would I now, at this point that I have 5, why would I now earn the weak, earn the failing item and keep it, instead of moving that to the winning item, the superior item, the strong? There is no point at which you will stop. Do you understand? And you will increasingly move closer and closer to that point, that epiphany that it is not the USD denominated price of Bitcoin that ultimately matters. What ultimately matters, because that will ultimately go away, what ultimately matters at the end of the day is whether or not I have more Bitcoin today than ever before in the history of my life. When that epiphany hits you, price stops mattering from the failing item. You see, you are judging Bitcoin's value through the lens of something that is failing. Do you understand this? That you are saying, you are respecting, right? You are respecting the opinion of a failed item. You're respecting that opinion more than the winning item itself. You see, if you weren't doing that, if you weren't respecting the opinion of the failing item over the opinion of the real item, you would actually not be overly concerned with the USD denominated price. You would only be concerned with one thing. Do I have more of the winning item today than ever before in history? Than yesterday, than the week before, than the month before, than the year before? Your only concern, your only objective will be to want to get your hands on more, figuratively, get your hands more than you had. And the USD denominated price would lose its importance. In fact, the only importance would be that if the USD denominated price says that Bitcoin is valued less, you'd use that as an opportunity to get more. not as an opportunity to back off or even sell, but to get more. All right. Now, let me just show you this, if I may. Here is basically the purchasing power of the US dollar from the early 1900s. And this is only going to the year 2020, by the way, guys. So it is far further down this graph at 2024. I mean, it fell off a cliff in 2020 with money printer going burr like never before. So it went off a cliff. So think of that red line now being almost vertical to the downside. Now, I ask you, all right, I ask you, is this the picture of success? Is this the picture of winning? Is this the picture of the strong? This is not the picture of something winning. This is not the picture of success. This is not the picture of the strong. This is the picture of something that is failing. Fiat currency is failing. This is the picture of something that is weak, not strong. This is the picture of something that you are forced to give your life for, but now have a choice to earn and switch immediately into the strong. Now, let me show you the strong, if I may. So that is the picture of success. This is the picture of the strong. This is the picture of winning. The USD denominated price, let's do it this way, people. So why don't I do it this way? Let's look at the dollar price in Bitcoin. This is what you're experiencing holding dollars instead of holding Bitcoin. This is, now look guys, look. This is the dollar priced in Bitcoin, Satoshis, which means your lead item, the dollar, is experiencing this against Bitcoin. That is a failing thing. So, but yet we're forced to earn this. We're forced to work, give our time, our labor. You're supposed to hand over your intelligence, hand over any knowledge that you've accumulated, any skill that you've acquired, your time, your energy, your effort. You hand that over in exchange for this item. But if you hold this item, you see what you're experiencing. So for the first time, instead of holding it, we switch it to another item that's winning. And we switch it to this item that is winning. So we take the item that is failing, like this, we're forced to earn this. But as you earn this, you switch it immediately to the winner. We've never really had something totally outside of this system. We've never had something outside of this system to go to. We've had things inside of that system to go to, like real estate. That's inside of that system. We've had stocks. That's inside of that system. We've had bonds. That's inside of that system. But we've never had something that is totally outside of that system. Where's my... So this is totally, Bitcoin is outside of the system. Do you understand? It is not a part of that system, which means that it is not governed by what happens there. It is not affected by the goings on there, despite what it appears to be in short moments of time. It is unaffected by the system it has no part in. It is not affected by interest rates. It's not affected by the US dollar. It's not affected by institutions and what they do. It's not. And I know this is very difficult for a lot of you to understand. Some people might say, well, Oliver, come on. How can it be? How is it possible? I know some of you are asking, how is it possible that Bitcoin is not affected by anything? Guys, Bitcoin is maths. It's a protocol. A protocol is not affected by anything. The protocol is the protocol, period. For instance, mathematics is a protocol, maths. So in the mathematical protocol, 1 + 1 = 2. So what affects that? Interest rates? Affects 1 + 1 = 2? No. Does whichever presidential candidate gets elected, does that affect 1 + 1 = 2? Does that affect the mathematical protocol? No. Interest rates higher or lower, does that affect the math? 1 + 1 = 2, the mathematical protocol? No. And people get this wrong about Bitcoin all the time. How many times have we heard the narrative, well, you know, Bitcoin has only lived its life in a low interest rate environment. When the Fed starts raising interest rates, it's all over for Bitcoin. How many times did we hear that? How many times? Bitcoin's the best performing asset in the history in the world during the fastest hike in interest rates in history. The highest interest rates in decades. And the fastest to get there in history. And not only the best performing asset on planet Earth during that time, but is the 9th most valuable asset on planet Earth during that time, and hit all-time new highs during that time. I believe that most people get this mixed up. The fact these ideas like Bitcoin's correlated to the system. Bitcoin's zero correlation to the system because it has no connection to the system whatsoever. It's a protocol. It's 1 + 1 = 2. Is these little slivers of time which are coincidence. It's coincidence, short-term phenomena. How is the best performing asset on planet Earth by orders of magnitude have correlation? How? How is that possible? How does it have correlation? It's so far, number one, that it's not even in the same galaxy. It's operating on different rules, different metrics. There is no connection. Now, in the short term, there is this apparent connection. But that's sort of like, you know, you whistling in the wind. You might affect a little bit of the air when you whistle. Can't even whistle anymore. Wow. All right, you might affect the air a tiny bit, for ever so briefly. But the moment you stop whistling, it goes right back to being normal. And over time, you've done nothing. Your whistling has done absolutely fucking nothing. There's no correlation. There's no connection. It is totally outside of the system, outside of anything you know. And it continues to baffle me how many people are still stuck in the idea that they're applying what applies to the system that Bitcoin frees you from to Bitcoin. The very thing Bitcoin frees you from, they're applying the rules and the way things operate from the thing it frees you from to it. It doesn't make sense. So, this idea that, oh, Bitcoin rely and that bullshit don't we have enough examples of Bitcoin destroying all of these theories and notions? Isn't 15 years enough? of it just destroying every single narrative, proving wrong every notion. Don't we, isn't 50, if 15 years is not enough, then what's enough? You have to ask yourself, people. If I need to see more, that's fine. You've got 15 years. But if you need to see more, then over this 15 years, Bitcoin becoming the best performing asset the world has ever seen. If you need to see more, it's become the most secure network in the history of the world. If you need to see more, that its network effects are growing faster than anything that has ever existed on planet Earth, including the internet. If you need to see more, then its hash rate makes it the most secure thing human beings have ever encountered, ever had the ability to access. If you need to see more, that it's the only network worthwhile on planet Earth that has never been hacked, ever. The only one. Banks get hacked every day. If you need to see more than this, that it has trounced and put to shame every single thing human beings hold dear or have held dear in the past by orders of magnitude. If that is not enough, if number one in every single metric you can possibly conjure, if that's not enough, then you have to, if that's okay, but it is intelligent to have some type of metric at which you become convinced. So if all of that doesn't matter to you and it's not enough, and you say, well, I still don't believe, well, okay, you can't leave that open. What will Bitcoin need to do to make you believe? Does it need to reach 100,000? Is that your metric? Are you waiting for it to have 60% adoption versus half of 1% adoption? Like, you have to have something that says, all right, I'm not a believer now, but I will be a believer if this, and that happens. That's intelligently not believing in it. That's intelligence. No intelligence is, I don't care if it's the number one in everything in the world, I still don't believe it. Well, why? What will make you believe it? I don't know, but I still don't believe it. Well, that's dumb. That is stupid. And your future generations, you will forever be the dunce of your future generations, of your future family, of your current family. You will forever be the dunce, because what Bitcoin ensures is that everything is recorded, whether you act to own Bitcoin or not. The very act of deciding not to own Bitcoin is recorded as well. Oh, yes. The recording is not the moment you own Bitcoin or purchase Bitcoin or acquire Bitcoin. Yes, that becomes a data item, a historical item on Bitcoin's time chain, of course. But not doing anything is also recorded, because there's no first transaction by you yet. Do you understand? And so your entire future bloodline will be able to look back at this time and know that you were alive. My uncle was alive when you could buy this. We wish we could buy this. My grandfather was alive when you could buy this for government paper. We wish we could buy this for government paper. Now we have to work for it. Our family would have been set for life if my aunt, who lived during this time, did something. But she didn't. That's a recording. We are living in the most unique time in Bitcoin's history. And yes, I believe this time is more unique than the past because Bitcoin is the safest it has ever been. It's the most secure than it's ever been. It's the most adopted than it's ever been. It's the most accepted than it's ever been. You got regulatory clarity, which you never had. You now have institutional acceptance and sponsorship growing, which you never had. You have FASB accounting rules changing to no longer make it punitive to hold it on publicly traded balance sheets, which you never had. You have small countries adopting it as a currency alternative, which you never had. You have pension funds starting to put it on their balance sheet, which are the longest term institutional owners of assets in existence, which is very significant, which you never had. It is easier today to secure it, to get a hold of it, than it ever has been. And this makes this period right now more unique than the past. It makes it safer, more powerful, more certain, more secure. I promise you, you will be judged. Whether you do something or not, you will be judged by your future. You will be judged. The same way we judge and make fun of people who poo-pooed the internet today, to this very day, they will never live it until the day they die. The internet is a fad. That will be a meme forever. That'll be a meme even after you pass. All right? Internet may be just a passing fad. You remember this. This is forever going to be a meme. The poo-pooing of the personal computer. Remember the Today Show? Let me see if I can find that. Remember this? When MIT professor...
Home computer sales, classroom computer sales seem to have peaked and now have hit a flat period, and some say they're going to...
I don't think so.
Oh yes, they've hit a flat period. What should that tell us?
I really don't believe that they've hit a flat period.
The personal computers hit a flat period.
Rising at about 30% per year, and nowhere has there been a flat period.
It is not rising at nearly the rate it was going.
Yes, it is.
Well, we disagree. We're looking at two different sets of numbers. My question to you is the home computer destined to become the CB of the 80s, the hula hoop of the 80s?
Well,
hula hoop of the 80s.
Analogy, because like a CB, it won't be very useful in its present form, which is just talking to yourself and to your computer. But like a CB, when it starts talking to other computers throughout the whole country, when we have several million machines interconnected and people can talk to each other and can exchange views and can transact, can buy and sell information, can buy and sell informational services, labor, I think it's going to be a very interesting period where we'll have an information marketplace, a new way of life.
I quite disagree.
I want to get him angry.
Yeah, I think that won't work. I think that the home computer is going to suffer the same fate, by and large, as, say, the home movie camera. People had the idea, and still have the idea, that if I have a very expensive, a very good home movie camera, then they can make very good movies. And the trouble
You're still
is,
got to be a good movie maker first.
That's right. The trouble is you have to have an idea. Okay, and people forget that. Similarly, to write good and interesting programs on a computer, one has to have an idea. Ideas are hard to come by.
Professor Weizenbaum, Professor DeTouzos, thank you both.
Unfrickin' real. These are going to be, guys, these are going to be forever. You don't want to be Brian Gumble here. You don't want to be the guy with the big giant mustache. Right? You don't want to be that person. You understand what I'm saying? So anyway, just my point here, guys, my number one point here, I'm going to see if I can. We all need to, I think we all need to, we need to quell our impatience here with the USD denominated price, unless you're already a whale. All right? And you're probably not. And so your focus should stop. Your focus should switch from the little tiny bit of Bitcoin you have now rising in USD denominated terms. Because all that's going to do for you is make you sorry you don't have more. What you should be focused on instead is, do I have more Bitcoin than I ever have had in my history? Do I have more today than last week? Every single week, that's the question. Do I have more this week than last week? Not what's the USD denominated price. It's, do I have more? You let the frickin' price do what the frickin' price is going to do. And we have 15 years of history to say that it just goes up. But when it's not, you've got to use that. You've got to use the crab periods to make sure I have more this week than last week. You've got to use the red bars down to make sure you can say I have more this week than last week. Because when this thing goes, it is going to outprice you, and your little $100 DCA every month or every week or every 2 weeks is not going to do it. You're only going to be sorry if that moment happens before you have sufficient quantity. Do you understand? You're only going to spend the rest of your life disappointed and depressed that you did not do what you were supposed to do when you could have done it. And so we need to switch the view from USD denominated price go up to Satoshi number go up. Do I have more Satoshis today than yesterday? Do I have more Satoshis today than last week? And if the answer to that is yes, then you're winning. And price go down gives you the greater ability to do that. Price sideways gives you the greatest ability to do that. Price go up, not so much. Not so much. That's the first thing. The last thing I will say, the second thing I wanted to say to you is stop. We need to stop assigning what every other failing USD denominated thing is subject to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's not subject to the laws of stocks. Bitcoin's not subject to the laws of the US dollar. Bitcoin's not subject to the euro, to the Japanese yen, to interest rates, or to 12 men in some frickin' back room smoking cigars deciding for the world what the price of money is going to be. It's not subject to that. It is a protocol. It is completely outside of the system. It is not touched by anything that we know from all the other existing systems. 1 + 1 = 2, no matter what these bozos do. We got 15 years of proof. That is not a theory. It's 15 years of frickin' proof that it is so. Bitcoin has broken every theory someone has ever come up with, every single one. Every theory, from interest rates to war to this to that. It's broken everything. It's just not part of it. And if you think for one moment that Bitcoin is going to have diminishing returns going forward, I just think that is the height of naivete at best, and it's stupidity at worst. My opinion, this is America. I have a right to my own opinion, at least for now. I think it's the height of naivete at best and stupidity at worst. And I'll tell you what, at worst, and I'll tell you why. Bitcoin has trounced everything human beings have ever held dear, ever. By orders of magnitude, over 15 years, over 10 years, over 5 years, everything. It's the fastest asset to reach $1 trillion in valuation. It's the fastest adopted technology or money in the history the world has ever known. And if you think that Bitcoin accomplishing all of that with just a little tiny pinch of adoption half of 1% of the world owns Bitcoin. Think about this, people. Half of 1%. And I think that's generous. Half of 1%. Now, some people argue with me, Oliver, no, it's 1%. Okay. All right, then let's take it there. 1%? So Bitcoin has become the best of anything humans have ever been in contact with, in every single metric you can possibly think of. With 1% or less of the world's population having adopted it, with 99% left. And wait, it's now diminishing returns after 1%. How on this God's green earth does that even make sense? Oh, we've reached 0.5% adoption, Oliver. It's all downhill from here. It's diminishing returns from here. Really? Really? Oh, no. We've reached 1% adoption, Oliver. That's it. We won't see the gains from the 1%. The 99%'s downhill from here. All diminishing returns from here. Are you stupid or are you stupid? How can this be so? This is why I believe all these price models based on the 0.5%, they're bullshit. Now, it's fun to come up with price models. I'm not saying don't do it. Why not have fun while we become free? Okay, but understand it's a freaking game. Nobody really knows. All we know is direction. One thing I guarantee for myself that's right is direction. We don't need to have price correct, people. We need to have direction correct. And I'm telling you, we are directionally correct. We may not be price correct. Okay, so it may not be 200,000. It may not be 800,000. It may not be 400,000 when we think it's going to be. But direction will be right. We're going to be directionally right. And that's all that's required, is to just be directionally right. So that you can know the Satoshis I'm buying today is directionally up. The Satoshis I'm buying tomorrow, directionally up. The Satoshis I bought last month, directionally up. The Satoshis I'm going to buy next month, directionally up. The Satoshis I'm going to buy next year, directionally up over time. All you need to have right is the direction. And with 0.5% in, and that's not going down, with 0.5% in and 99.5% to go, you're telling me the direction's not up? You're telling me that adoption's over? That doesn't make sense, right? Adoption's not over from 0.5%. Adoption's not over from 1%. So if Bitcoin accomplished all that it did, and nothing can compare to it, with 0.5%, okay, I'll give it to you, 1% adoption globally. Where's it going to be at 5%? That's orders of magnitude more, no? 20%? 60%? All I'm here to tell you is that all I'm here to tell you, people, is that trending replies. That's cool. Is that there's three things, and I'm going to end with this, guys. There's three things. There's three things that I personally keep my finger on the pulse of, and some more than others, actually, of the three. And as long as those are okay, I don't care what the price is. I want to see hash rate continue to trend higher. Bitcoin hash rate. That is, in my opinion, a very important metric. I want to see adoption, all right, grow, and adoption is about to explode. We know this. We know adoption is about to explode. Institutions are lining up right now. Adoption is about to explode. But as long as adoption's rising, as long as the hash rate's rising, and as long as my personal Satoshi stash is rising every single week of my life, as long as every week I can say I have more Satoshis than last week. I'm at an all-time high this week in Satoshis. If I can say that and those two things are rising, are still in an uptrend, everything else is just freaking noise. You know what to do? Go to work. Go to work. Your time is limited. Presidential election time is just a couple weeks away. Go to work. Stack harder. Ciao for now.
My name is Oliver Velez,
All right, guys.
and I am your 13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there, and until next time. Boom!